Hi guys, I thought I'd show you a more effective way to go about learning scales. What I've got here is an example of a diatonic scale chart. I'm showing you the caged box positions rather than the 3-note per string. I think it's important to learn every possible fingering, but I think it's better to push the standard fingerings first. These are better if you have small hands, which is important if you're just getting into this. It's more difficult to do the 3-note per strings because they're stretchier. They also move kind of diagonally across the fingerboard, which is easier to get confused and lost on the fingerboard. So I think it's better to start with these first if you're learning this or teaching this to someone. So what I would do first is find a starting position. So in the beginning, it doesn't really matter because we're not soloing. You could start this on any fret that you want. But if you want to get a particular key, it's just as simple as, like, let's say if I wanted to play in the key of A minor or C major, I just need to find A. So on this chart here, the X is the minor target. That's where the minor scale starts. The circle represents the major target. So A is the 5th fret on the low E string. So let's say for 5th fret, okay? And from there, you can see your reference points of how many frets higher each position goes up the neck. Okay, so what we would do first, we'd find our starting position. And rather than trying to play like an A minor scale 2 octaves, you first want to start by learning every available note in that region of the neck. Okay, so I would just have a student go right all the way through all the notes, boom, 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 ascending and descending. Okay, now once you can do that in each box position, and we know where everything is, we want to start simulating soloing. So in a real basic sense, when I'm soloing, I'm trying to hit a certain note to start my phrase on, I'm moving around a little bit, and then I'm ending on another strong note again. Okay, so we need to get that targeted practice going. So here's how we would do it. I have 2 exercises for this. It's the start and stop and the up and down. Okay, so the start and stop concept, let's say if we're doing A minor, okay, so let's assume we're in the key of A minor. These X's here represent the A's. Okay, so what I need to be able to do is to demonstrate to myself that I know instinctively where to start and stop when I'm ending phrases. So what I would do is have a student start on the target note and stop for a second on the next target note. And then I'd have them hit that target note and end on the next target note. And then what we would do is descend that, stopping on each target note. Okay, the idea is to burn that, 1 octave at a time sound of that particular mode and knowing where the start and stopping points are within that region of the neck. Then what you would do is, you would carry that on to the next position. So the thing, too, we should talk about is that in a lot of methods when people teach this, they'll call, box 1, whatever mode you're in, whatever the lowest note is. So like they'll call that box 1 for minor, and that'll be like box 1 for major, and that's box 1 for Dorian. I think that's a dumb way to look at it because it's just the same 7 notes everywhere. And it's kind of a ridiculous idea to think, okay, well, I'm going to renumber this set of notes every time and think about it differently every time I'm doing one of the 7 modes. That's 7 times as confusing. You really just need to be thinking, it's irrelevant how many of these minor targets are in a particular neck position. I just need to know where they are so I can move around. So let's say if we were in box number 2, I have 2 minor targets. So the start and stop exercise, I would start here and go boom, 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 and that's it. Okay, well, we still got all these other notes. So the next step is the up and down. So now that I've established that I know where my targets are for starting and stopping, I want to think about, okay, if I were to start on a target, I want to think about all the available notes, ascending and descending. So here's how the up and down exercise would work. I would start on a target, let's say the upper target here, and I would play within this box position. So we're in box number 2 here, okay? And I would ascend, boom, 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 and then I would start on that note and descend all the way down the scale, boom, 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 boom. I just blow right on through it. So then we would take the other target and do the same thing. We could ascend all the way, descend all the way through the pattern, and you would do that for every box. So remember, that's just us kind of quickly going through and testing. Do I know all the available notes that I have in both directions? Now, the next step would be to randomize the process. Okay, so maybe instead of doing it in stepwise sequential order that way, now you test yourself and you go through the neck box by box and you see if you could start on a note, and maybe instead of going stepwise up from there, maybe we try to mix it up. Okay, this is our goal here is to try to see, can I trip myself up? Can I get it to where I get lost? So a good way of doing this is put on a metronome or a drum beat and play a little game with yourself where you're going, Okay, I'm going to play maybe like eighth notes, 1 and 2 and I have to keep the notes moving. And if I get lost and I don't know where to go, then I know I failed. And in a pressure situation, I would have had a problem there. Okay, so that's how I would approach that. And as quickly as you can, when I was 14, I would drill the scales up and down like this a lot. But I don't do that anymore. Whenever I'm trying to acquire new scalar knowledge, to acquire a new scale, I'm starting to get the shape under my fingers, and then as quickly as possible, I'm trying to do this thing where I try to randomize and move around and make melodies with the scale, because that's when you run into issues like, if I have to go from here to here, am I going to cross my fingers over, or am I going to roll my finger? You run into picking and muting issues that you don't run into when you just run the scale. So this is more of a real-world scenario of, if I were soloing with this, am I going to get lost or get tripped up? And that's the way you want to approach this. And now, of course, we've got 7 modes. So the thing is, with these references, we could find any of the modes. So, that's the first step of the major scale. So let's say I wanted to play Dorian. Okay, Dorian's the second step of the major scale. So that's 1, there's 2. There's 1, there's 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. So from there, you would do the same process. So if I were doing Dorian right here, I have a Dorian target there, and there, and there, and I would walk through them and then stop at each Dorian target and descend and stop at each Dorian target, and then I would start at each target and I would play all the notes ascending and descending from every target. Okay, now slowly but surely, we've taken this whole neck chart that has a bunch of notes on it. We've learned how to negotiate getting around fingering it and where all the notes are. Okay, and then little by little, all these box divisions go away, and pretty soon we can move all over the neck, and we're naturally now, we burned into our heads where the strong notes are, and our hands will just find their way there, and our ear will guide us in terms of interval jumps and things. All right, guys, I hope this has helped you. Please like and subscribe, and click the notification bell. Thanks.